Hello there, you faithful few, and welcome back to DMS Adventures, where the adventures aren't just outside, they're also in the mind. Well, this video is in the context of Adventurecation 3, and the only reason I mention that is because one of the things I wanted to do while I was down here was do some writing. Not riding like a horse, writing like a book. And since it really doesn't matter what kind of video I put out, it really doesn't get that many views, I thought I'd do something different and do a video on the books that I write for Rugged Mountain Mister. So I've mentioned this concept in a couple other videos before, and the more faithful of ye faithful few will remember what those are. I'd mentioned that I write books for Rugged Mountain Mister, one a year, and I've also mentioned the Knight's Code that we've been trying to teach Rugged Mountain Mister growing up, trying to raise a modern day knight. So I've written 4 of those books so far, and sitting down here to start writing the 5th while on Adventurecation 3. There will be 10 in total, and each book kind of focuses on one of the words of the Knight's Code. The first book was based on loyalty, the second book was based on honesty, the third was based on humility, the fourth was based on self-discipline, and now the 5th one, I've been trying to figure out which one of the character traits we're going to use for this book. And the early front runner is integrity. So I'm here at the Polly's Pine Tree Retreat with a drink, a laptop, glasses. Figured I'll just leave those on because it makes me look like I might actually be a writer, which I am not. And we're going to start trying to come up with a story for this particular book. So now some general background on the books themselves. Me and a buddy way back in high school decided that we were super cool and that we could write our own fantasy novel series, kind of like a Lord of the Rings or something like that. So we got together, we started coming up with ideas, and we pretty much created a world with some characters and started writing. Now, as you might be able to guess, with a couple of teenage dudes, and since you've never heard of me before, we never actually got anywhere near to completing that process. However, I did hold on to all of the stuff that we had written, all the stuff that we had created, and I still have that to this day. Now, one of the characters that I created in that world was named Torin Fulcrum. And for those of you that are in the know, that is actually Rugged Mountain Mister's name, is Torin. So since we ended up with a little boy named Torin, I had a book series based on a character named Torin. It seemed like the natural thing to do was to base this whole series around this character named Torin Fulcrum. So the name of the series is The Adventures of Torin Fulcrum. So here are the books so far. First one, like I said, was loyalty. There's honesty, humility, and self-discipline. And there is Torin Fulcrum himself. Now this drawing was done by my buddy. He did the outline and I filled in the color and the armor and the face, all that kind of stuff. So it was definitely a collaboration. Then on the back of every book is the same poem about how does a boy become a man. Now I'm not going to try and summarize here what the original story that me and my buddy were trying to write was all about. I only mention it to say that I used a lot of what was already existing in order to begin to write this series. That being said though, I have absolutely no idea where the story is going. I'm kind of just making it up as I go along. So I borrowed the world itself, some of the characters that were in it, as well as some of the story, really just to get myself going in coming up with new stuff. But ultimately, the main point of the books is to have a creative way to get across the Knight's Code to Mister. And so also, he has something, physical and tangible to carry with him into his life, at least to show that his dad cared enough to put together something like this for him to help raise him and to help him be an honorable knight. So, are the stories any good? No, they're not. I'm not claiming that they are at all. Just like my music, just like poetry, just like these videos, they're all based in relative but acceptable mediocrity. It really just continues my need to create things, no matter what they are. So I've got this beautiful backyard here at Polly's Pine Tree Retreat to try and get the creative juices flowing. Let me flash up some pictures from the actual books. These are directly from the pages while I kind of bring you up to speed on the story. Now, one kind of cool thing about this is I've reached out to an artist on Fiverr, and I came across Alex Greenwood, and she is from England and does some really great art. And I had her do some specific art for these books. So I can't remember exactly. I think I've had her do maybe 4 or 5 different pieces of art, and I'll probably have her do 2 more for this one. So the basis for this is kind of your standard fantasy novel. We got elves, we got dwarves, we got humans, and we've got orcs and other various races, even 1 or 2 that me and my buddy came up with. Of course, the main character of the story is Torin Fulcrum. He's got a friend, Sir Bane Bloodstone. He is a knight of Dargrim. So Torin and Bane are sent on a mission to help out the elves, because there's a bunch of intrigue and evil going on in the background that no one's figured out exactly what's going on yet, including me. So as I am at the 5th book in this series, it's about time to start figuring out, what's going to happen by the end so that I can set things up that will need to be written about in the last book. The theme of the first book was loyalty. So in that one, I display and kind of explain loyalty in Torin and Bane's friendship. They're loyal to one another and always there for each other. The second book is dealing with honesty, and in that one, Sir Bane goes against the Emperor's orders, and Torin kind of wants him to not mention it, but of course, Sir Bane, being an honorable knight, feels that he has to be honest and tell the Emperor what he did wrong. In the third book, we're dealing with humility. Now in that one, it's the first time that the humans and the elves get together, and of course the elves, being pompous elves, they think that they're better than the humans, and so we're dealing with some humility issues there, as Torin doesn't like it so much that the elves are so pompous. Then the fourth book is self-discipline. Now there's multiple ways I showed self-discipline in that one. We had Sir Bane's training as a knight come through, the discipline that he needed to stay cool under pressure. One of the elves is like a diplomat, so he has the skill of kind of keeping his emotions out of conversations. Takes discipline. Had an example of the dwarf in the story, Dexter. He does not have any self-discipline and kind of just blows up. This is actually really nice. Shout out to all you hammock campers out there. So, book number 5, Integrity. Where to go next? What to do next? What happens to our heroes in the next episode? That's what we're here to find out. So we're at a point in the story where we've finally gotten all the characters together. We've got Torin, we've got Sir Bane, we've got Erfemis, the elf diplomat I mentioned, Dexter, the dwarf that I mentioned, and then several other characters. So we got them all together. There's of course a mysterious character off to the side who's only been kind of showing up every now and again. It's about time to bring them all together and figure out what they're going to do. So although I brought all the characters together physically, they are not yet all on the same page socially. So I'll have to work through some character dynamics and try and figure out how they all can just get along. And nothing brings people together better than a shared adversity. What that adversity is going to be, don't know yet. Sort of a pet peeve of mine in the fantasy genre is that whenever magic is involved, they never bother to explain how the magic works. Gandalf and Saruman in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, their magic, I have no idea how it works. They just kind of wave their sticks at each other and things happen. I'm not super well versed in the Harry Potter series. However, how that magic actually works, no explanation that I'm aware of. And if you know, leave it in the comments how that all actually works. So in the context of our story here, I only really have one wizard, and he's that dude that's kind of off in the shadows and we don't see a lot of. So the way I plan on explaining that particular magic is that he is a follower of the one true God. And of course, for our purposes, since we're believers, that is going to be the God of the Bible. Of course, the closest thing we have to magic are things that say the prophets did back in the Old Testament. Parting seas, calling down fire, all that sort of stuff. But I still have yet to figure out how to work that all into the story. So now that I've blathered on long enough about all the backstory and stuff like this to bring you up to speed, let's get to writing. Well, we're here in the Carolina room at the Polly's Pine Tree Retreat because it's kind of secluded from the rest of the house, and the lighting in here is fantastic. Typically, I like to do a cold open with either a new character or a new subject. Now, I've already got enough characters for this story, I think, but I do need to do a little bit more character development. So I think we'll start with some background and information on that wizard that I talked about. And so it begins. Well, tragedy in one's youth is usually a good vehicle for change. Well, there are few things more tragic than a young boy losing his sole caretaker, especially when it's his mother. So we will use that as a catalyst to get this show on the road. So I write these in Google Docs because it gives me the opportunity to work on it wherever I happen to be at. I can pull it up on my phone, I can do it on the laptop here, I can do it at a desktop, even when I'm on vacation. So it gives me a lot of flexibility to be able to work on it whenever I can find the time. The sun has finally set, and I believe I have finished the prologue. And then there's writing, some more writing, thinking, pondering intensely. And then one of the challenging things with writing multiple books over multiple years is keeping continuity between what you've already written and what you're going to write next. So that usually involves reading the previous books an awful lot. Well, you faithful few, Adventurecation 3 is over, but the adventures of Tor and Fulcrum continue. It's been almost 2 months since I did that very last segment, and we are back home. And so the first thing I did when I got back was I reached out to the artist on Fiverr that did our previous custom artwork. Unfortunately, as it would turn out, she was not doing artwork on Fiverr anymore. So I had to go through the entire process of trying to find an artist to do the custom artwork for the book. So I reached out to several artists on Fiverr and finally found somebody that seemed like they would do a pretty decent job. Now let me just say that since the last time I worked with somebody on Fiverr, the prices have gone up. Normally I would have the artist do maybe 2 pieces of artwork, but with these prices, we could only get 1. So I knew that somewhere in the book, eventually, Bane and Tauren would be fighting together. So that was the piece of art that I was going to be going for. So I sent the artist a couple sketches of Bane, of Tauren, and of their weapons. And the way this artist does it is they do a quick sketch and send it to you for approval. So this was the first sketch that I got. So my only feedback for this one was that Tauren's hair looked a little too thick up on top, so I just had him adjust that. And then he sent me a final sketch that looked like this. Then once I approved that one, he went on to add some color. Now at this point, I had already been writing more of the book and had come to the place where this battle was actually going to take place, and I knew that there would be some fire in the background. So I asked him to go ahead and add some flame color to the abstract background. He was super cool. He worked with me and was able to get that put in. And so the first draft with the color looked like this. I didn't need any modifications for that. I thought it looked great. So I went ahead and gave him the approval, and this is the final product. So this is where Bane and Tauren are about to attack a big group of orcs and probably die doing it when a character comes in and saves the day by putting up a wall of fire around them. So as I said, while all this back and forth was going on with the artist, I was continuing to write the text of the book. I typically go for about 13 to 14 pages of actual text. Once I get the text done, I will go ahead and start making the actual book on a program called Booksmart. That comes from the online publishing company Blurb. They put that software out to make the book, and so that is what I've been using. I went on and grabbed a bunch of random pictures just to kind of set the mood for the particular text on that page. Finally got the spot to insert the custom artwork from the Fiverr artist. I usually add a custom prayer for Mr. there at the beginning of the book, and then kind of write a short letter to him at the end of the book. So once I got all that put together, proofread it 3 or 4 times to make sure everything was correct, I went ahead and sent it in for publication. And here it is. It's finally come in. We're actually about 10 days ahead of Rogue Mountain Mr.'s birthday. Go me. So let me open this up, show you what it looks like. All right, here we go. Carefully slice that open. I always put it in this nice box. And there it is. We went with the orange. Rogue Mountain Mr. actually picked orange this time. It does come wrapped in a plastic just for protection. So let's go ahead and get that off of there. Again, being super careful not to actually damage the book. And there it is. This is a poem that is on the back of all of the books. Peel at corner to remove. Again, carefully, no any goo left behind on there. Got orange for the title. Like I said, this one is Integrity. This is book 5 of the 10-book series. Let's see what it looks like. I think they call these cover pages. Went with the black. Got the Knight's Code right there up in front. Got copyright info over here. Here's the prayer. And then just got pictures and chapter 1. Story starts here. So once we get it, kind of go through proof just to make sure everything came out the way it did, you know, when I uploaded it. Pretty soon over here, I will flip to the new piece of art as it looks in the book. There it is. So this was the custom artwork I got from the artist on Fiverr. Got Sir Bane Bloodstone over here, Tauren Fulcrum right there. So it's kind of cool. So this was the original sketch. My friend did the outline of. I filled in everything else, and then this was the real artist's version of him right there. Everything actually looks pretty good. Last page here, just put some pictures for Mr. Here's the afterword. Here's the short little note that I write for him. Then the last page has an updated map showing the travels of the particular characters in this book. All right, you faithful few, that's it for this video. I know it's a little bit different, so thanks for indulging me. Hope it was at least interesting for you. Want to wish Rogue Mountain Mr. happy birthday, and I hope he enjoys and learns a little something from this book. So, want to thank y'all so much for watching. You all have a great day.